Hey, what's going on, everyone? Axel here. So I thought I would do a video on the D&D movie, just giving my thoughts and opinions on it. I did see it today. There's been a lot of hype. I don't normally do videos like this on the channel, like talking about movies and such, but it is D&D, so whatever. Let's just do it. So this movie has everyone has been hoping that it breaks the stereotype of D&D movies of not being very good. Like, for example, I do have the DVD of this is actually the original. Sorry, the light's getting in the way a bit, but this is the original D&D movie from 2000 and its sequel called Wrath of the Dragon God. We all know how bad the original D&D movie was from 2000s. Legitimately one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Probably bottom three. I've seen some other horrible movies, despite not being much of a movie person. I don't watch very many movies. I actually thought the sequel, Wrath of the Dragon God, was pretty good. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was decent for a low budget movie. But I'm happy to say that the D&D movie that just came out, Honor Among Thieves, is actually pretty good. I've been a bit shocked at just how positive the reception's been. If you look on Rotten Tomatoes, for example, the audience score and the critic score is really high. Um, I will say the movie going in, I knew the premise of it, that it was, say, something more along the lines of like Guardians of the Galaxy rather than, say, like Lord of the Rings. Like, so in other words, it was a clearly like a action comedy and not a serious fantasy movie. And that's really the one thing. And I do think the movie is pretty good, but it's not quite what I wanted personally from a D&D movie. I wanted a fantasy movie for D&D that plays it straight, that is a serious fantasy epic. That's what I wanted, and this was not that. So there was an element when I went in to see this movie of like, I went to a restaurant and I wanted a burger, but I got a quesadilla, for example. I knew what I was getting, but it's just not quite what I want. I guess, is that a good analogy? I don't know. But it's just not quite what I wanted from a D&D movie. However, that's not to say the movie isn't good for what it is. It's certainly a good movie. It's not bad. It's easily way better than the 2000s movie. Not that that was exactly a high bar for it to jump over. But yeah, I guess going into it, a couple things I'll say. The characters, the main classes are very well represented. You got Wizard, Barbarian, Bard, Druid, sorcerer. You got all the elements, the typical paladin as well. You got most of the main classes, not all of them, but most of the core classes from, say, like 5e, for example, are represented here. The monsters, a lot of them look really, really good. So the CGI is actually a little bit all over the place because there's sections of the movie where the CGI is really, really good, and there's a section of the movie where sections where the CGI looks like B movie really bad. I will say that this movie, and this is what I was expecting going in. It's kind of like a Marvel movie in that it follows the same kind of the comedy here aspect of there being a serious story, but there are like funny quips every 5 minutes. There's like really crude jokes and things that just kind of jar you out of the moment. That's not to say like that's personally not what I wanted in a movie. I think it's because I've seen so many Marvel movies. I'm just kind of sick of that formula in modern movies, but it's certainly fine for what it is. That seems to be a formula a lot of people like. But the storyline, it's about a father trying to win back his daughter, essentially. And that's what else we want to talk about. How about monsters? So most of D&D's famous monsters are in this movie, or not. I mean, not most. I mean, I guess I should say most of the like iconic ones are in this movie. So some, which this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailer, but say like there's mimics, owlbears, displacer beasts, dragons obviously are in there. One I will say that isn't in there that surprised me a bit is there's no beholder in this movie. It is referenced, but as far as I can remember, there's no beholder actually in the movie. Some of the fight scenes are pretty epic, and some of them are kind of ugh. Like, for example, there was a few fight scenes where the Michelle Rodriguez's character, the barbarian, like how it's like it's like stormtrooper syndrome here with how dumb the like red shirt enemies are. Like there's so many part like fight scenes where I'm like, oh my, I was kind of rolling my eyes. It's like, really, like one person takes out like 15 people and they just like stand there and get hit. It's pretty bad. in that aspect in some scenes, but the CGI and the action was really good. In other scenes, I think there is the, a scene that takes place in the Underdark. I thought the whole Underdark looked really nice, very creepy. I thought that the also undead in this movie looked pretty cool. The dragon looked really epic. That was a really nice scene with all of them kind of running away. I think that my favorite scene in the whole movie was with the druid character, where she kind of sneaks into the castle or to do some little reconnaissance on this door that's sealed by magic that they got to figure out how to get past it. And in that scene, she shifts from, she starts as a fly, then goes to like a bird, I think. Then at one point she's a deer, one point she's a hawk, one point she's a rat. And that was just that was really cool. Definitely my favorite scene in the entire movie visually. That was really, really awesome. As far as the story, like this being a comedy, I didn't feel much in terms of like it's not a movie like this being an action comedy. Again, it's one of these movies where it's like a popcorn movie. You're gonna go in, you're gonna have a fun time, which I did have a fun time. But don't expect to like go in and have your emotions moved or for it to be a movie that really really plays with your emotions much. It didn't. Like I like the storyline is just whatever. Like I didn't at any time like get emotional or feel anything from the story. It was more of a movie where it's like, oh look, there's some cool monsters, there's some cool action. Um, but yeah, that's essentially my thoughts on it. I'm not dogging this movie. I think it's a pretty good movie. It's just it is an action comedy. It's not really what I wanted, but I would still give this movie like a 7 out of 10, something like that. It's a really good movie. I think you should go see it, especially if you like D&D. There's a lot of things in this movie. I mean, obviously, if you're watching this, you like D&D, but this movie was clearly made for not just D&D fans, but also regular fans who know nothing about D&D. So you can enjoy it not knowing anything about D&D, just as a kind of an generic action comedy. But if you are into D&D, you will get so many references that to locations, for example, to different races. Like there's a lot of D&D races that may not be a prominent character, but you will see them in the background. You'll be like, oh look, there's that race over there. Like they do a good job of, especially with the extras, of really highlighting certain characters or certain races and really highlighting Easter eggs from the books. So from the game. So what else do I want to say? I think that's about it. Well, I guess I could go over the characters. What we got a bard. So Chris Pine is the bard, kind of the main comedic lead. I think his character is just I assume it's just a joke, a tie back to Bard being like a joke in the party, I guess, was the whole thing with him, because he's actually pretty useless the whole time. I don't even know, looking back, does his character even like punch a bad guy in the whole movie or fight a bad guy or kill a bad guy? I don't remember. Maybe not. I mean, the main characters that get stuff done in the party is like the paladin, the druid, and the barbarian, Michelle Rodriguez's character. So yeah, is there anything else I want to say? I mean, none of the other characters really stuck out to me. I think my favorite character was probably the druid, just because I liked all the wild shape shifting scenes. I think those were the coolest to watch. The sorcerer has a story of a kind of all about confidence, of regaining confidence in himself, which he does pay off in the end. So that was a pretty all right character. I really liked the stuff they did with the portals, both in the Underdark sections and in the heist section. Those were really nice, and I also really like the arena scene where they have to run through the maze. The scene with the mimics, the scene of them jumping into the gelatinous cube. Those are all really cool. Like there's a lot to like in this movie. I think it's a really good movie if you just want to like have fun with some friends and have some laughs. It's good. It's not like a movie. I don't think this is a movie you'll like remember fondly and want to go back and watch a million times, but it is a good movie that's a fun lighthearted time. Just don't expect anything like grand. Don't expect a grand epic from this movie, which is, again, I don't want to repeat myself too many times, but that's the one thing I would love to see, a fantasy D&D movie that's is created with the intention of being serious and being an epic, kind of like Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings was. Like I would love to see that in a D&D movie, instead of just them taking, which it seems to me that they're just kind of copying the Marvel formula in this movie, which is a formula that works. But it's not a formula that really it's not a recipe that really takes any chances or does anything unique or interesting or that's really going to hit you on a on a emotional level or thing that's going to make you remember. I mean, there is a aspect of this movie which I've seen a lot of people comment on where it does draw in the party fun aspects of pen and paper D&D, like sitting around a table with friends and joking around and having fun. And for a lot of players, it's going to bring back those memories and that kind of nostalgia, which is great. But for me, it's just not quite what I wanted from a movie. I wanted more of a serious epic rather than the more lighthearted storyline. And if you really enjoy the lighthearted thing and you get a lot of it brings back a lot of memories to you of say pen and paper, that's great. But it's just for me, it's not quite what I wanted. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think about this movie. I thought it was a good movie. I think the praise of it's a little over the top. I wouldn't say it's like amazing, but it's a good solid movie. And if you are a D&D fan, which you probably are, because if you watch my channel, you should go see it. It's definitely worth the time, and it's not terribly long either. It's what I think it's about an hour and a half. So it's if nothing else, it can be a good time for a like a weekend evening or something. But yeah, guys, that is gonna be it for this video. Again, let me comment below. Let me know what you think. Yeah, that's it. See you all next time. Have a good one. Take care.